devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you very much, Ekendra Prabhu, and thank you very much, Maharaj, for kicking off this transcendental weekend of special Sangha. So we have a very power-packed weekend starting right now with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami, who will be speaking on his lecture series on the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then tomorrow, we have 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. His Holiness Sachidananda Swami on this channel. He'll be broadcasting from Germany, and his topic is Every Crisis Bears an Opportunity. And then tomorrow evening, His Grace Gauranga Prabhu, Climbing the Ladder of Determination. And then Sunday morning, His Holiness Bhakti Chari Swami at 10 a.m. And then Sunday evening, 6 p.m. is Her Grace Rukmini Mataji, talking on the paradoxes of the path, lessons from loss. So we have a very power-packed weekend. So thank you very much, Maharaj, for kicking off this roller coaster of ecstasy. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. One thing is, if you have a name, a username like iPhone, of which there are 5 or 7 here, you might consider changing your name, which you can do, I think, by clicking on it and then right-clicking or something, and we figure it out. It's friendlier, then we know, we can see one another better. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve. Gauravani Pracharane. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Paschatide Shatarane. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Again, thank you all for coming. Obeisances to Purushartha Prabhu, and welcome to all. The last, on Wednesday, we took a bit of a, not a detour, but we spent some extra time talking about the duties of a king and how a king would deal with what Kali Yuga is sending us, whether coronaviruses or other things, and how they would prevent the onslaught of these miseries in their nations by wiping out sinful activities and promoting the chanting of the glories of the Lord and the holy name of the Lord. That's quite wound in with the text. And now we return to the text itself, text 46. The sage Shamik has upbraided his son for cursing the king. The king is never to be cursed. He is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for such a slight infraction, the puffed up little boy had no business cursing him. Now, Dharmapalo Narapati Satu Sangrad Brihatstravaha Sakshan Maha Bhagavato Mahan Bhagavato Rajarshir Hayamed Hayat Shutrit Shama Yuto Dino Naivad Smach Chapamar Hati. The Emperor Parikshit is a pious king. He's highly celebrated and is a first-class devotee of the personality of Godhead. He is a saint amongst royalty, and he has performed many horse sacrifices. When such a king is tired and fatigued, being stricken with hunger and thirst, he does not at all deserve to be cursed. the as Prabhupada comments, that after explaining the general codes relating to the royal position and asserting that the king can do no wrong, the sage wanted to say something about this emperor, Parikshit Maharaj, specifically. Dharmapalo, he's the protector of religious principles, and Brihatshtravaha, he's a highly celebrated person. Sakshad, most importantly, Sakshan Mahabhagavato, he's a great devotee of the Lord. Even as a king, Prabhupada said he was first class, but then specifically, he's a highly elevated devotee of the Lord. So Naivasmach, he doesn't deserve to be cursed. Asmad, by us. He doesn't deserve to be cursed by us. It was undeserving, and Prabhupada said, Shamak Rishi, a Brahmin, took responsibility for all the deterioration of the good orders of the world. The Brahmin, although all the Brahmins were aloof from the incident, still for the childish action of a Brahmin boy, the whole world situation was changed. So the Rishi himself took responsibility on behalf of the Brahmin community by us, Asmad. We discussed the other day that Chanakya says that if there's a fire in the hollow of one tree, the whole forest burns down. And if there's one fragrant tree in a forest, the whole forest becomes fragrant. So here, this one upstart, impudent Brahmin boy, by his wrong actions, brought degradation, brought disgrace to the whole Brahmin community. First to his family. His father was felt responsible personally, and then the whole Brahmin community was involved in this indirectly. Any comments or questions here so far? Okay.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj.
Hi, Krishna, Tulsi Priya.
Sorry, I can't turn on the camera at the moment. My question is this idea of others being responsible for the actions of an individual. That's very antithetical to how we think of things in this culture. And
we don't even think of being responsible for our own actions.
True. But I guess, is it just that things are seen that way, or that they really are?
They really are. That if you think about it, just taking examples from history, people become famous for being, well, just like Kunti is famous for being the mother of the Pandavas, or George Washington's mother. I mean, she's who was she? But because she's George Washington's mother, it's like she's recorded in history. And there's so many examples like that. Someone who's behind the scenes but connected with a great person becomes glorified for that connection. And the other way also, the example that stands out in my mind, perhaps you remember that, it's going back quite a while now, quite a number of years, there was a psychopath named Son of Sam, I think it was New York, who was a serial killer and was madman. He told the police that his dog was transmitting messages about who should be killed, and he was getting this direction and taking it. So he was clearly deranged. And there was a picture in the media of him being brought to the courtroom to the court. And his mother and father were there, shielding their faces with a newspaper from the cameras. So you can imagine what the impact was on them. Were they responsible somehow or other? Their son has killed so many innocent people on the orders of a dog. Their whole life, not just that they're seen, first of all, they are seen that way as being, who are you? Well, I'm the father of such and such. And somehow or other, they were responsible. They've brought such a child into the world somehow or other. So of course it's karma, ultimately everyone has their own karma, but by karma also someone's born in a particular family and then the whole family becomes just the Yadu family. Probably one of Krishna's reasons for appearing is to glorify the dynasty of Yadu. The Yadu appeared long before Krishna, but Krishna chose to honor the family because of his being a great devotee. By Prahlad's presence, that whole family becomes glorified. And similarly, by the presence of wrongdoers, evildoers, demons, things go the other way. Is that okay?
Thank you, yes.
Or the Krishna consciousness movement, where our whole sampradaya becomes glorified by the presence of its most prominent saints. By Srila Prabhupada's presence, so many, of course, they're all great souls, but they come to prominence because of Prabhupada's activities. He's brought honor to the whole sampradaya, the whole community, the whole lineage. They were already honorable, but they became still more glorious because of Prabhupada's activities. And if our ISKCON devotees act, wrongly, abominably, then it brings trouble for the whole society, as we've seen. Okay. Apapeshu, saprityeshu, balena pakva buddhina, papam kritam tad bhagavan, sarvatma kshantum arhati. Then the Rishi prayed to the all-pervading personality of Godhead to pardon his immature boy who had no intelligence and who had committed the great sin of cursing a person who was completely free from sins, who was subordinate, and who deserved to be protected. So the king was a papa, he was sinless, and Sabritya, he was a subordinate. The Kshatriyas, although they're kings, they're powerful, still they're subordinate to the Brahmins, and in that sense, under the protection of the Brahmins. Physically, the Brahmins are protected by the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas protect them from evildoers or even from wild animals and so on in the forest. But the Brahmins protect the Kshatriyas by giving them proper guidance. So this king deserved to be protected, but he's been cursed by balena, by a child, a foolish child, who's a pakva buddhi. This word has appeared at least once or twice before in this narration. Apakva means unripe, undeveloped, immature. Apakva buddhi, maybe good intelligence, but he let it run away with him. He had some qualification, but he was immature, inexperienced, and puffed up. Didn't recognize that I'm still immature, I'm a child. No, just see my prowess. So this is all apakva buddhi, immature intelligence. Apapam kritam. The king is sinless, but now you've done something sinful by cursing him. So Tat Bhagavan therefore made the personality of Godhead, Sarvatma, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, the soul of everyone, Kshantamarhati, kindly forgive him. Prabhupada makes some, when an offense is done unto the devotee of the Lord, it's very difficult to overcome the reaction. The Brahmin boy had done wrong on 2 counts. First, he'd cursed a king, who by his the gravity of his office is not to be cursed. And he defended a great Mahabhagavat. The king was representative of the Lord in 2 ways, both as king and as a great devotee. So this childish boy, Prabhupada said, out of sheer vanity in being a Brahmin's son, cursed the king and was therefore liable to be punished. But the sage appealed to the Lord. What else could he do? That he's just a foolish child. Please forgive him. We heard that elsewhere, that Brahmins, women, children, they're to be excused. And then Prabhupada gives some history that in the Varaha Purana, it's mentioned that demons who acted animically in previous lives have gotten the opportunity to take birth in Brahmin families. So they acted inimically toward the Lord, but weren't killed by the Lord. So they were allowed to take birth in the families of Brahmins to take advantage of the age of Kali. The all-merciful Lord gave them a chance to have their births in the families of pious Brahmins so that they could progress toward salvation. But the demons, instead of utilizing the good opportunity, misused the Brahminical culture due to being puffed up by vanity in becoming Brahmins. So that's, again, the Patva Buddhi. They're Brahmins, but they don't develop their Krishna consciousness. They don't come to the platform of true understanding. And therefore, they just become proud that we're Brahmins, and act wrongly. So then they become instruments of Kali Yuga. And this boy Shringi was the example. Okay, there's a question here. Okay, let's see. From BGD. Okay. There's a question sent to me privately, but I guess it's for everyone. Well, first, let's see if there are other questions, because this one's slightly out of off target, not entirely, but are there any other questions or comments here on this text?
There's one from Vasudev, Prabhu, just popped up.
Okay. Let's keep scrolling down, yes. In our system of justice, children are not always held accountable due to their immature age. What about the laws of karma? Does karmic responsibility start at a certain age? There's an interesting question for you. We find that, who was it? That the Muni who had pierced an insect with a straw as a child, and therefore he was very nearly um, killed, was only saved at the last minute by the king. So there's not, it doesn't appears that there's not complete immunity. If we do things even uh, childishly, it's a simple thing. It's not that if a child puts his hand in the fire says, "Oh, okay, he's a child, we forgive him." There's a karmic reaction. Karma just means activities and reactions to those activities. So even if a child puts his hand in the fire, he gets the reaction for that. Now, beyond that, I can't say. To the intricacies of karma are so dense that no one can fully understand them. But certainly there's leniency given to children, and then there's also they are responsible for the things that they do, or there are consequences. Let's say that for the things that they do.
With the
Is that
Manduka
okay?
Muni, Maharaj? The Manduka Muni you're talking
Manduk
about?
Muni, yes, Manduk Muni. Any more to anyone want to add something or follow up on this?
Maharaj,
Yes.
Hare Krishna, this is Gurdas. I was thinking that although Shringi is very young, it seems to, his action seems to reflect the ignorance of a conditioned soul who, we often hear this expression, take the law into his own hands. He wasn't aware of the authority, or he rejected the process of authority and just said, you did this to my father, I'm going to do this to you.
Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita, paradharma bhayavaha, to take on someone else's duty is dangerous. Therefore that this Sanskrit phrase is there, of course it's a common way of expressing things, but na arhati. It's not deserving. It's not deserving. It's not proper. It's not fit. It's not just a question of you. It's things are evaluated on what is your duty. And Prabhupada would sometimes speak in those terms about his own actions. It is my duty, or it is not my duty. That's actually how a God-conscious person thinks. It's not just I want to, I don't want to, I like it, I don't like it. But is it my duty? For my duty, I'll die. That's all right. But if it's not my duty, I shouldn't do it. That sense was very strong. What is my duty? Arjuna had to fight because it was his duty. It was his duty. And the Brahmins should avoid fighting because it's not their duty. So that whole sense is there of what is proper. So it wasn't the child's duty to curse the king. Na arhati, nasmach, what is that? He doesn't deserve to be cursed by us. It's not your duty. First of all, it's even if you were somehow or other the authority, you've misjudged it. And why have you misjudged it? You're an immature boy. If you're the son of a judge, it doesn't mean that you get on the bench and start pronouncing verdicts. You're just a child. You're in training, as it were. A simple thing in the hospital, if there's an intern, the intern has certain restrictions on what he can do, or nurses. They're allowed to do this, but they're not allowed to do that. This they can do, but this only a doctor can do. So if the nurse does things that only the doctor can do, absent some urgent emergency, then no, that wasn't your duty. So this whole sense of duty in the Vedic culture is very strong. And the boy transgressed the rules due to excessive pride. I'm I have some power. If he gets a little power and he wants to show it off to his friends, wants to impress others. You know, that old advertising kind of thing. Impress your friends. There's an ad I saw years ago. And it's typical of advertising. There's some guy who's sitting at his Mac, and his wife is sort of, there, like full of admiration. That my husband has got this Mac and he's controlling it. So that enters into people's decisions so much. What will impress people? The whole luxury car market. How much of it is actually about being more comfortable, and how much of it is about impressing others? Even Prabhupada gives that explanation in Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna says that if we kill our kinsman, Prabhupada interprets it, who will there be to show off to? If we, Nacha Rajam Sukhanija, I don't, at the cost of my relatives, I don't want even the kingdom. And Prabhupada gave that explanation that what's the use of having the kingdom if there's no one to show it off to? So that figures in our thinking, and it figured in the immature thinking of Shringi. Is that okay?
Thank you, Raj.
Tulsi Priya says, in the Catholic Church, they decided that the age of reason was 7. So you're responsible from 7, meaning that they aren't really capable of sin before that. That's why you make your first confession and first communion around the age of 7 or 8. I've also heard that parents accept or share in the direct karmic reactions of their children's actions until they're 7. Okay. Good to know how these things are viewed in the Catholic Church.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Vasudev, isn't it?
This is Prem Sindhu Das. I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Who's this?
Prem Sindhu Das.
Prem
from
Sindhu.
Columbus.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Hare Krishna. Welcome.
So I have a question. This whole set of events that happened, like Maharaj Parikshit is a pure devotee, and he losing his control of mind and garlanding Samik Rishi with a snake is not befitting also a pure devotee's character. Generally, we understand that the pure devotee is equipoised and things like that. And then
Yeah.
then Shringi also cursing Parikshit Maharaj is also kind of, so isn't this a part of a bigger plan for Srimad Bhagavatam to be spoken, and so that we have the Srimad Bhagavatam? So in that light, how can we really, it's the will of providence or the destiny that this all was going to happen, so that it can lead to the further events of speaking Srimad Bhagavatam and things like that. So how much fault can be attributed to Shringi in that sense, looking at the bigger picture?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it is a theme that sort of runs throughout this section of the text, that whatever happened to the king here was really destined by providence. It was Krishna's arrangement. Otherwise, such a thing could never have happened. He wouldn't have insulted a sage. It was out of character for the king to do that, and it was the whole business was clearly a setup by Krishna. Krishna has arranged all of this so that Srimad Bhagavatam could be spoken, and also so that the king could become detached from his worldly life at the end. So then, why is? But then everybody's playing a position. It's instructive nonetheless. Like in a play where someone is a joker, and someone is a king, and someone is a conspirator, and someone is a this, and someone is a that. So ultimately, it's simply arranged by the director and the writer of the play, and yet the activities of the players is instructive, and there are consequences to their activities. They have to suffer the results of their activities, at least within the context of the play. So ultimately, here it's Krishna behind everything, and so the child's it's arranged even that a child would curse the king because the child could be excused. So that's part of the script. Also, that's also part of Krishna's arrangement. But I think we could extend your question. We might ask, to what extent is what happens to us Krishna's arrangement? To what extent is it our karma? I think that's sort of implicit in the background in your question, if I'm not wrong. And in one sense, we don't know. We don't know. Something that happens to us appears to be an ordinary disaster under the laws of karma, but seen another way, it's Krishna's mercy. It's some arrangement for our advancement. So we really don't know how much is going on for this reason or that reason. How much is what the causes of things are. But the devotee by default, he doesn't think, yes, everything in my life is personally arranged for me by Krishna because I'm so important. But on the other side, he takes everything as being Krishna's arrangement. Everything is an advantage for Krishna's service. That's Sachinandan Maharaj's title for tomorrow, I think, that behind every disaster, there's some opportunity like that. So whatever mishap comes to a devotee, he takes it that also as Krishna's mercy. As we'll see, the king accepts the curse in that spirit. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Anything else here so far? Let's see this question that was sent to me privately. I've seen many senior devotees in ISKCON who are not big fans of food for life, but they believe as Brahmins we should be giving proper guidance, book distribution, harinam to the society instead of food. But now it is a norm in India due to the present situation. They're distributing prasadam plates and they are asking donations for the same. What should we understand? What's your view on today's position of Brahmins in the current COVID-19 situation? Well, there's a whole, my goodness, that's, it is a little bit far afield. First of all, just in the current COVID situation, first of all, generally, yes, our business is to give transcendental knowledge. That is our purpose, and not just to feed the needy. There's an informative question and answer set that's recently been distributed, and I haven't had time to really respond to. Taking up this question, are devotees supposed to give charity? And the answer is, of course, they're supposed to give charity. You don't have to look further than Bhagavad Gita. Yagya dana tapas chaiva pavanani manishinam. These are purifying even for the great souls. One should not give up charity, austerity, and sacrifice. But it's sort of the wrong question. The question, if we're looking for the question that's controversial, question is whether we should be giving charity in a particular way. Should we, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, be distributing charity, singling out the poor, singling out orphans, singling out school children, going to places of emergencies or so on? Is that how we should be distributing charity? That would be a very different set of questions and answers, and the answers would be interesting, as are the questions. I don't think I'm going to go further into that because we did cut ourselves some slack last, a couple classes lately. I've cut some slack to go off on things that are not so close to the text. Unless there's a strong demand here, I think we'll carry on with our with matters more directly pertinent to the text. Let's see. This is from Swati. Well, it's to me privately, but I think it's meant for everyone. If a non-devotee is going through some tragic situations in life and does not believe in karma and God, and says that I will believe in Krishna if the situation turns around, how should we try to help such a person? Well, we know what the actual situation is, that you're does not believe in karma and God, then everything, of course, they have their own idea. Is it chance? Is it this or is it that? But this challenge, I'll believe in you if you become my order supplier. Well, that's just not who you are. You're not the person to give orders or to make demands or to set tests. Krishna, if you do, if you come and I snap my fingers, I'll believe in you. Otherwise, you're probably a myth. It's just another form of arrogance. So how you can give them a mantra that might help. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You can try to explain things philosophically to them. You can be kind to them. What your strategy will be is up to you. But the fact of the matter is that their notion is arrogant and foolish, because they're suffering the results of their own misdeeds, and now it's God's business to turn the situation around. It's just arrogance. It's matter. I'll believe in the government if they set me free from the jail. Okay, shall we press on? We have a little more time.
Yes, Maharaj, we can continue.
Okay, thank you. Tiraskrita vipralabdha shabda kshipta hata api nasyatat pratikurvanti tad bhakta prabhavopihi. Very important verse. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. The context, well, the sage knew that the Lord doesn't forgive a person who offends a devotee. He can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought that if Parikshit would counter curse the boy, well, then he might be saved. But he knew that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses, and so he wouldn't counteract it. They're not inclined, never inclined, to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. It was a personal affair, and therefore Shamak Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. And so he had to appeal to the Lord. The Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chayaha, harsha marsha bhayod bhayagar, sayukta sasuki naraha. Is a qualification of a devotee in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yasman no dvijate loko. He doesn't agitate others. Lokan no dvijate chaya. And he's not agitated by others. So these are sort of natural in the world. Someone bad mouths us. Oh yeah, well, let me tell you what I think of you. Or they publish something about us, we publish something about them. Vipralabdha, we announce that this person has cheated me, or this person has been negligent, this person's done this to me, this person's done that to me. I demand retribution, I demand justice, I demand this, I demand that, or just what is that, tu quoque, oh, you too, stick it back, put it in your eye. This is in conditioned life, that's almost automatic response that we want to strike back. Someone punches us, we're immediately ready to punch him back. That's the response. But here, bhakta, the Lord's devotees, prabhava, even though they're powerful, na tat pratikurvanti, they never retaliate. Pratikurvanti, there's two meanings at least for pratikurvanti. One is retaliate. They don't avenge themselves. They think, unfortunate. Especially in the mode of goodness. One, what to speak of the transcendental platform, that all right, this was Krishna's arrangement. I should have I deserve worse. And it's not my duty to avenge myself. What is that? Samadhamma tapa shocham kshanti. Arjunamavicha. Kshanti means tolerance. Oh, that's a Brahminical quality. Samadhamma tapa, austerity, and kshanti, to tolerate all of these things. And another meaning of pratikurvanti is to counteract. The king could have looked for some way to counteract this curse. He'd been protected by Krishna in the womb. Now he could have thought, I've been cursed by this Brahmin boy. How can I counteract this? Is there somebody who knows a mantra? Is there this? Is there that? But he accepted it, that this misfortune has come upon me. Actually, deservingly, he, as we find, that he thought, let this come upon me and not upon my family or others. So this is the nature of a devotee, and very instructive, because in Kali Yuga, these things are always happening. Someone's always bad-mouthing us, someone's always cheating us, someone's always neglecting us, someone's always cursing us. There's so many of these things that we have to expect in Kali Yuga. And here it's advised that the devotees of the Lord rise above these things, and they don't get involved in cursing and counter-cursing, in tit for tat, but they tolerate. Easily said and not so easily done. It's one has to be advanced in Krishna consciousness to develop these good qualities. Some other questions or thoughts?
This seems to be one of the verses that are worth memorizing, it would seem. It's not difficult in its meter, and it's very powerful. And I think it's something that we can apply to ourselves when we find ourselves overwhelmed by the the drive or the push to retaliate and succumb to our lower nature. So maybe
Yeah.
I'm going to take a breath before we're getting angry, and then remembering this verse, it would be nice.
Yeah, especially in the internet age, it's like Kali has put a keyboard at your fingertips just so that you can retaliate, just so that you can clear your name, just so that you can set things straight, just so that you can, put the real history out there, just so that you can let people know what they should think of this person or that person, just for this, just for that. You get on the internet and it's like someone said this, well, let me tell you what I think about that, and what I think about him, and it becomes the Daksha Yajna so easily. There used to be, back in the days when the internet was the province of, almost exclusive province of the military and the universities, and there was something called Usenet, which may still exist, but which was the place where people had discussions about various topics, and the discussions would sometimes get hot. So there was a little posting that was regularly posted in all of the news groups, really, I think, called Netiquette. Netiquette. And a big piece of the advice was to remember that there's somebody else on the other end of your post. When you post something, there's a person there at the end. And for you just to get all heated up and release your steam on the airwaves is maybe not what you want to do. And the example, the standard advice was, calm down, sleep on it, hold on to your text, and look at it again tomorrow. Don't act in such passion. And it was, just practical advice, which, if followed, would save the all of us from a lot of needless disturbance, and especially save the authors from needlessly kicking up dust. But this is Kali, the age of quarrel, and we get on the internet, and this is social media, where we can be antisocial on a global scale. So we think, everything is like Maya has sent all the science and technology have sent us all these blessings, but these blessings curse us. So the car is such a blessing, but then along with the car come repairs and insurance and traffic jams and the price of petrol and petrol wars and all of that. So these things are, we think it's so convenient, we can drive here and there, but then Prabhupada says, to see your physician, you have to go 50 miles. So as the car was a blessing, a mixed blessing for human society, so now it's the internet and social media and all of these things, which are blessings. And here we are, we're able to gather, how many of us? 90 of us are able to gather and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam from different parts of the country or different parts of the world. How nice. But then on the other side, the internet is used for the most despicable purposes. And when we rise above the most despicable purposes, then we just get to this ordinary and just ordinary Gramya Katha. Then we get to this business of hurling insults and hurling accusations and back and forth, which are almost built into the media. There's been some discussion about this from people who are in the have a, sort of high positions in developing this technology, and who have pointed out with regret that this is the nature of the thing, that people get on there and start acting in ways that they would never act if they were in personal touch with the people that they're now in touch with electronically. The Shringi mentality of just see my prowess. Well, now it's not just your childish friends, but your childish friends from all over the world can see your prowess when you stick it to them on Facebook or wherever it's going to be. So the pride in being powerful, or well, we won't take it further, but one exhibits one's prowess on the internet, one pronounces on the internet, one insults on the internet, one accuses on the internet, the most absurd kinds of accusations, the most vicious accusations even. You've poisoned your guru. This is all a gift of Kali Yuga. And one, just again, technological note, a former technology officer for Google, I believe he was involved with ethics at Google, has posted not that long ago an article in which he pointed out that the algorithms on social media bring controversy to the top, not because anyone has designed them to do that, but they gather momentum. When there's a hot topic, when there's controversy, when there's this kind of heated exchanges, it attracts attention and involvement. And so the algorithms bring it to the top, and the algorithms further promote this kind of pratikurvanti, or shapam, this cursing and counter cursing and offending and aggression, which are really often names for the same thing. The Defense Department is also the aggression department. So all of these things go on thanks to Kali. Kali has gone digital. And Maya gives with one hand, but takes with the other hand, or with 7 other hands. So these things are to be noted, that we need to be very careful in our involvement with these things. Okay. And Tulsi Priya has created a Facebook group, 21st Century Vanaprastha, and she's posted the link in the chat box. If you don't copy it somewhere, it will disappear when this conference ends in the next couple of minutes. So if you're interested in this topic, and I'm interested to see what's started there, then you can, the site is still being developed.
Where is the chat box?
Mahagopi, I think if you want to silence yourself, that would be good.
And there's a question. Caitanya Bhava, who has raised his hand?
Oh, okay. Moving further down, let's see.
No, it's not in the chat. He just
okay.
wanted to ask a question on the, so you can unmute yourself. Caitanya Bhava? No?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So in this verse, it's mentioned how the devotees are so forbearing, that all of these things, if they happen to them, they don't want to avenge themselves. And then you also talked about tolerance. So often it can happen that you are in a situation which demands a level of tolerance which is somewhere that you are not at. So in that situation, is it better to try to tolerate it, or just say that it's not really?
Yeah, this is, we know what it's supposed to be. And this is sort of our when we blow our cork, this is what we say. We say, well, you know, this is beyond my level of advancement. So now I'm going to just uncork and you know, spill it all out and explain that, well, I'm not. And of course that it's true and that's what it is. But Krishna wouldn't have given instructions about tolerance if we weren't supposed to at least strive to implement them. It's understood that we'll sometimes fall short. You know, things will agitate us to the point where we'll snap at somebody, or we'll insult somebody, or we'll you know, join a campaign or whatever it is. It sometimes happens that we go beyond, you know, Maya gets us, or things are become more than we can tolerate. But then, therefore, this verse is there that we should remember that it's not my duty to counteract and to curse and counter curse and express anger on my own behalf. When Krishna is insulted, Krishna's devotees are insulted, that's another thing. The story is famous that at one of these Pandal programs in India, some some rogue started like, you know, playing with the edges of one of the saris of one of the ladies, and you know, just disturbing her. And Prabhupada took his kartals in his hand and was like, you know, ready to bash the guy. Who do you think you are, you rogue? So uncultured and so offensive. So that's there. The Lord shows the same behavior. He can tolerate offenses to himself, but not to his devotees. So that's another issue. That probably brings out in the purport also. But when it's us, we should try to tolerate. And if we find it difficult, then we should try harder, because it will be good for us. It will be good for us. It will be good for them. It will be all around good. And if somehow we slip, we blow it, then the devotee is sorry, as we find with Parikshit Maharaj, that he insulted the king. It was intolerable. He was overwhelmed by hunger and thirst, and thought that he was being neglected by this sage. So he insulted him by garlanding him with a snake. But then when he was returning home, he started to think, well, wait a second, this wasn't right. This wasn't right. I've offended a Brahmin. So that regret should be there, that if we should try and try and try to tolerate. And if things go beyond our limits, and then we strike out at others, then we should be a little remorseful, or very remorseful, that I've lost my composure, I've lost my cool, I've done what I shouldn't have done. Apologies may certainly be due to the persons we've offended. If it's been public, then public apology. If it's private, then private apology. That may be warranted. But not just that we sort of, otherwise our tendency is to justify ourselves and say, well, you know, what did he expect? He was just like, I'm not, you know, I'm not Rupa Goswami or something. I'm not Haridas Thakur. I have my limits. And therefore, since I've reached my limit, bam, 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 bam. And everything I do now is justified because I have my limits. We should try to be tolerant and gentle. Is that all right, Caitanya Bhava?
Thank you, Maharaj. Just a small comment. I sometimes feel that like to act at a certain level of tolerance, you also need a certain level of humility. And if you don't have that, then it can just be a lot of remorse and a lot of anger inside. And I guess without humility, it becomes very difficult to tolerate.
Well, all these things, amanitva, anampitva, or amanina, amanadena. Humility is the beginning of knowledge and the beginning of culture also. If Shringi had been humble, then he wouldn't have cursed the king. So humility is wanted, but we shouldn't think that, well, I'm not humble, and so it would be false for me to regret anything that I've done for lack of humility or whatever. No, I mean, that if I don't have one, just like in legal contracts, there's what they call severability. You know, if any provision of this contract proves unenforceable or whatever, all the other parts of the contract are still valid. That's severability clause. It's in every contract. So there's the severability clause here. It's not that just because I'm not humble, now everything else is justified. Right? Because I'm not, if I were more Krishna conscious, then you'd expect me to act differently. But since I'm not more Krishna conscious, then I'm going to act like this and it's all justified. That we should try to avoid. It may be there. Even Dhruva Maharaj, you told Narad Muni, I'm sorry, but I'm just a Kshatriya, and your advice won't work for me. But then later he regretted it, that I was such a fool, that I was after some material thing. So these are the qualities that make one dear to Krishna, to be humble, to be tolerant, to be forgiving, to be humbler than the grass, more tolerant than the tree, ready to give respect to others. We don't have to follow these things, but if we do, then we become dear to Krishna. And if we don't, then our life becomes problematic in so many ways.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. We're at our time limit. I just want to see what these last two questions are.
Yeah, I think we're kind of a little bit over time, but that's
I'm just looking to see if I can quickly. Yeah, we can deal with these quickly. Are the videos on the internet about Srila Prabhupada being poisoned false? If they say he was poisoned, yes, they're false. They're all rubbish. Yovanananda asks that it may be perceived as weakness if you don't defend yourself or speak up when attacked or maligned. Should this be a consideration? Only in politics, but in personal dealings, to be perceived as, what one person perceives as weak, others will perceive as saintly. So it becomes a longer answer because there are times when Prabhupada said you show your hoods but don't bite. But in general, the behavior of a devotee is to be gentle, forbearing, and that's brought out in this verse. And I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. It's a very engaging session tonight. And on behalf of ISKCON of New Jersey and also on behalf of all the attendees, I wanted to offer up my obeisances and thank you for staying with us and enlightening us 3 nights a week. So we look forward to hearing more of this as the chapters unfold. So this is the kickoff of the Transcendental Weekend of Nectar. And I'll just quickly announce what the next sessions during this weekend. So tomorrow at 1 p.m., these are all Eastern time, His Holiness Sachinandan Swami will talk about how every crisis bears an opportunity. And then tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. is His Grace Gauranga Prabhu, Climbing the Ladder of Determination, lessons from Dhruva Maharaj. And Sunday morning at 10 a.m., His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. And Sunday evening at 6 p.m., Rukmini Devidasi should be talking on paradoxes on the path, lessons from loss. So please keep this link with you, and all these videos will be available on the YouTube channel that's out there. So if you'd like to follow up, also if you want to keep on top of these things, you can go to iskonofnewjersey.org. That's iskonofnewjersey.org, and we'll be making announcements from there. Or you can go on our Facebook page. And if you're interested in joining the Vanaprastha in 21st Century group, please quickly copy and paste the Facebook link from Tulsi Priya that's out there on the chat box. So thank you all very much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow and every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you again.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj. Dandavad
Thank you.
Pranam, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.